Hello and welcome to Danny's Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Game Review, where I don't review the latest and greatest games that are out there, but I review the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate games that I enjoy playing. And the one I want to take you through today is called Astroneer. I found Astroneer to be a lot of fun once I got into it. One of the things I liked about it was that there was great portability very early on between Xbox and PC, and not just portability in the way that you can play on both of those platforms, but I could save my game on my Xbox and then I could resume from that point in time on my PC. So that was really well put together, and it made the game really easy to play when my children wanted to play on my Xbox and I couldn't access it, so I could just jump straight onto my PC. The controls are a little bit different. Took a little bit of getting used to when I switched between Xbox and PC, but it made the experience just a lot more accessible and a lot easier to play on the platform that I preferred to play at the time that I preferred to play, and depending on whether I could play on that platform. One of the fun things about Astroneer is the way that the tutorial is set up. So when you get started, instead of just jumping straight into it like a training sim, the Astroneer game launches you out into space and you get hit by an asteroid and crash land onto one of the moons. Once you hit that moon, and there's a fantastic little loading sequence, which is a little bit stuttery on my PC, but this loading solar system, which I think is very fitting for the way the game loads. Once you get into the tutorial, it runs you through a couple of things, and one of the core requirements that you need to remember when you're on a planet, which might seem pretty obvious when you're on an oxygenated planet like Earth, but one of the core requirements is oxygen, and the other core requirement is power. So there's this concept of tethers to be able to move around and survive. So in the tutorial, when we start off, we have to go and check out a vehicle, a wrecked rover. You can see that it's telling me that I'm suffocating and I need oxygen. When I get close to that rover, I get another tether and I get some oxygen and I continue on. So you can see that it's pretty important concept to move around and survive using those tethers. There's also planet resources that exist to give you the capability to print and make more complex tools, which can then enable you to make more complex things. Be patient with this game. It took a while for me to get started. I think very early on I got caught on a planet and I ran out of oxygen, didn't have any tethers, couldn't go anywhere, got a little bit frustrated, had to quit, almost didn't come back to the game as a result of that. But then I went and looked at the wiki, and that was incredibly helpful in helping me to get familiar with what I needed to do, and a lot of good advice, because the game is quite complex, is a little bit daunting at first, but is well worth it if you invest the time. Vehicles make it easier to get around, from tractors and rovers to rockets. It's a lot of fun, and the world's gravity and sudden crevices make it both fun and a little bit frustrating, so look out for those. Space travel is a little tricky, so keep that in mind. One of the things I like is that cutscene between when you launch from the planet out into space, and then you get to choose the planet that you want to jump to, the planet or the moon. And each planet has different resources and is a little bit more difficult depending on the type of terrain and atmosphere. And then, as you can see, there's a little landing zone and markers, which are very important. Learn how to make those early on, as there are multiple landing zones that you can use when you go to different planets or different moons. So marking those appropriately in either the color, the location and color is very important. Here's one that I've marked very close to, I think, the original home base that you get set up with. again, those animations are just absolutely fantastic. And landing and launching is a lot of fun, and it really helps you get immersed in the game. Everything in the Astroneer universe is 3D printed, and you can print a lot of funky stuff like this hydrazine jetpack, which attaches to my backpack and helps me to fly around and get to places much quicker than if I walked all over the place. You can see the tethers that provide me with oxygen and power that I've put all over this planet before I had a chance to make some vehicles and make my hydrazine jetpack that help me get around a lot easier and quicker. But it's so much more fun. There's a concept here in the game of research bytes, so you can't just automatically go ahead and print everything once you have some resources. You need to research things, and once you've researched something, you get the blueprints to be able to go ahead and print that item. So as you go around the different planets, you'll find these larger research items, which you can pick up and put on your vehicle, take those back to base. And there's also these smaller research items that you can either pop in your backpack and take back to your base to be researched, or you can go ahead and just research them directly. So they don't give you as many research bytes, but it's a way of fairly easily, if you're exploring a planet or you don't have enough space to store these items, to just go ahead and research them. So once you've obtained your research items, you put those into the research chamber. Pretty obvious. And if the research chamber has enough power, then it will go ahead and research those items for you. And depending on the amount of power, depends on how quickly they go ahead and research. Having multiples of these means you're going to earn your research bytes a little bit more quickly. So one of the things you'll notice is that there's a lot of debris around the place. And don't be messy. Clean up after yourself and after other people. Shred that unwanted space junk. One of the things that I really enjoy about this game is the ability to go ahead and to pack those items. It took me a while to figure out that if you want to pick up some of that space debris and put it on your spacecraft without having to carry it all the way back to your base, go ahead and pack it up. And the reason you want to go ahead and shred is not just for the environment, but also when you shred, you get some scrap out of shredding those items. Scrap is useful because you can go ahead and trade that for some items or resources that might not be available on the planet that you're on. It saves you time space hopping and allows you to go ahead and create those more complex elements using things such as the chemistry lab, which is a fantastic little lab that helps you figure out and make what you need to make something else, and so on. It gets a little complex, and to make a lot of these elements, I'd suggest you go ahead and look at the wiki so that you know what elements make up things that you need to put together and print what you need. There are a couple of other tools around the place, or labs that you can print that will help you out. The soil centrifuge will help you go ahead and make some of the basic items. The furnace is another good one that helps you refine core resources into more refined resources that you can then use to make those more complex items. And in your backpack, you've got the ability to go ahead and make the really critical things like your tethers. Backpack's also useful for storing those small items that you need to transfer from one of the refining machines across to other refining tools. It's a bunch of stuff that you can make there in your backpack just by cycling through, and it will use the items in your backpack to go ahead and create those, such as work lights, solar power, and even wind turbines. The work light is particularly helpful. Put that on the top of your backpack and it gives you some great nighttime vision. One of the things I love about Astroneer is the way that they've made the worlds incredibly visual. And each world is very different, but the colors and the vistas are very pretty. And often you'll find that you just sit there and pause while you're printing something for a bit and enjoy the Astroneer view. I rate this game pretty highly. It was a lot of fun, hard to get into at the start, but certainly provided me hours and hours of entertainment. I hope you enjoy it too, and until next time, have fun gaming.